This is the non-signature edition of the Viper Mini, and it's called the Series 2 Pro, and it's made by Glorious. My experience with Glorious mice has been less than ideal, with dodgy build quality and poor in-game performance. And in an era where the competition from multiple manufacturers is so high, Glorious needs to bring me a complete product. So they've gone for a revamp of the Series 1 Pro, which came out a couple of years ago. This was a Glorious Forge exclusive, which was an experimental group buy that no longer exists. This new Series 2 Pro has received an upgrade from the Series 1, one being that it's going to be a major release, and most of the internals have been changed along with the colour scheme, which has gone from being rather interesting and tasteful to black. Another and more significant change from the Series 1 Pro is that this too is using ratio optical switches. I believe the older Series 1 Pro was using KLGM 8.0 switches, which could get a bit temperamental over time, so optical ones will provide a bit of stability. But I have got a lot more to say about this change, as this massively impacts my opinion of this mouse. I'm going to leave it for a little bit later. There are more technological advancements though. This is using an upgraded sensor from the Series 1 Pro, but it's using the same sensor as the other recent Glorious mice releases. Previously on the Model 02 and D2 Pro, they supported up to 4000 Hz on wireless and 8000 Hz on wired, but now they've disconnected the cable, as this Series 2 Pro can now run 8000 Hz on wireless. There is a new sensor available, which is the 3950, but as I often say, sensor performance peaked ages ago, so this one just using a 3395 isn't exactly a major issue. But now it's time for the headlining feature, the shape. This is pretty much a Viper Mini. It looks, feels, smells and tastes like a Viper Mini, so it's safe to say it is one, with maybe a millimeter difference in some areas. To me, the design of the Viper Mini, or the Viper line in general, is rather flawed. I think hand and finger size is a very important factor with this mouse with how it's designed. If your hands or fingers are a bit too big, you might struggle to really place them comfortably on this mouse. As there's no sidewalls, it somewhat forces your fingers to be heavily bunched up on the right side of the mouse, and because the buttons hang over, they can then pinch your fingers when pressing down. So where you place your fingers on your current mouse, if it's not on a Viper Mini, will be something to look out for. The scroll wheel on this is a very soft one. The notches don't feel tight at all. Despite that, there's been no problems with limbo jumping, so it's actually pretty great to use. I can scroll through it quickly, and the mouse 3 switch feels great as well. A lot better than the main optical switches, that's for sure. Lastly, the side buttons I find are well placed, and they stick out quite a bit, making them easy to reach and trigger without much difficulty. But now it's time for the most important part of this review. What do I really think about this mouse? This is one of the most disappointing mice I've reviewed, and there's two reasons that factor into this. One is the price, which I'll get to next. The other reason is these terrible switches. I cannot emphasize enough how poor quality these switches are and how much it impacts your product. These switches feel and sound very hollow and cheap. When compared to a higher quality mechanical or optical switch, this poor quality is just highlighted further. The most damning evidence for this is that the Series 1 Pro, which is using a mechanical KLGM 8.0, which to me isn't a great mechanical switch, feels higher quality overall just because it's not using ratio optical switches. This is how much the switch choice has impacted the quality of this product. The main switches are probably the most used physical component of a gaming mouse. If you are putting ratio opticals in your mouse with no modifications, you are ruining your product. There. I'm done. No, I'm not. This mouse also costs around $130. Which is insane to me, because this is a rather bare bones mouse. I know it has 8000 Hz wireless polling rate, but I don't care. And polling rate shouldn't be a reason to increase the price of your product, especially when the majority of your users will probably not even use it. And if I ignore the 8000Hz polling rate, there's nothing on this mouse that can justify that price. If we look at some of the other options, the Vaxi XES is $10 more expensive, but is one of the highest quality products I've used. The Fnatic Lamzu Maya is $10 cheaper with 8000Hz wireless polling rate, is higher quality with great optical switches, and weighs just 45 grams. Apart from the Viper Mini shape, I cannot think of a reason why someone would want to buy this versus the other mice on offer, and I haven't even included the Viper clones on AliExpress. There's a video on screen now of a mouse that you should buy.